They are, most of us here, we are from Mexico. I am not from Mexico. You can see in Spanish that I am not from Mexico. And it is, I am going to tell your story. I don't want to elaborate too much because Jose Vargas has an extraordinary story. He has blessed thousands of people with his story, with his personal testimony. I'm so glad he and Leticia are with us. As a church, they have been here for 2 months, maybe 3 months, and I believe that God brought them to us. I received them as if commanded by God, because they have a ministry, we have a ministry, and the one they want to get involved with our church. And Leticia was talking to me there. What do they want? Become in the future pastors, lay people. It will be a great blessing to have you here with us, these brothers. Jose Vargas is very well known, not just here in Santa Ana or Anaheim. This area is known throughout the state and somehow throughout the country, and also in Mexico. I don't want to elaborate more because you have a long story to share with us. We're going to welcome you with applause. We're going to invite you special this afternoon. Jose Vargas.
Hey, doesn't it feel so bad being up here? Maybe I like the job, huh? First of all, I want there to be several people who are my relatives, but I want to introduce you to those who. Basically, it has a lot to do with my life, that I'm here following them day by day, encouraging myself and everything. I want to introduce you first to my wife, Leticia Vargas, and the future police chief here in Orange County, and Anaheim Police Lieutenant Jose Vargas. We're related. I was telling the pastor that life really does work miracles. I remember many years ago I was picking up trash here in this church because I drove a trash truck for many years before I got into the police department, and if one day they told me this, you're going to be up at the altar, I would have said, well, it's possibly the day of my wake, the day they're going to bury me. It's the only day I've been here, but here I am, right? Yes, life is full of miracles. But what does it say? The Bible tells me somewhere, it says that Jesus was walking on the earth when someone told him, Lazarus is dead, as they are. He is sure he is dead. Yes, he already stinks. That's what the Bible says. Only Jesus went to the tomb of Lazarus and said to him, Lazarus, come out of the tomb, get up and walk. And what did he do? Lazarus jumped, a chunky maroma in the air, fell to a halt and said, Nanny. If one day, when I was running from the migra, when I was with her already handcuffed from behind with my face on the ground, or when I was in the federal prison at Thermal Island, I had said to him, Lord, get me out of this and make me a police officer, Jesus would have said to me, the Lord would have said to me, you know, Joseph, I no longer work miracles. You are more than I can do, but still having faith. And by asking God all the time, well, this one way or another, we get ahead, right? I'm here, like many of you, because I came running from my country because I was hungry. Always as easy as that. Now, first, let me show you your hands. Those who proudly are undocumented or have been undocumented at some time. Thank you so much, huh? We must be proud of being what we are for the Lord. No distinction if we have papers or not. My father died when I was 11 years old and we moved to the city of Guadalajara. I was the eldest in the family and suddenly I said, Mom, my mother tells me you are the head of the family. I said, it sounds important. The position is, I said, what do you have to do? What is to be done? My mother says, you have to feed us all. Oh my goodness. And he was doing the best he could, walking in the markets, selling newspapers, bowling, shoes, doing everything possible. everything legal that a 12-year-old can do to bring milk and bread for his little brothers and sisters. The youngest one still didn't do it when my father died, and many times when I didn't have to bring it. I'd stop people on the street and then I'd say, you can give me a 10 or a 20. Why do I have to bring milk to my little brothers? If you think you don't have enough courage to stop a stranger and ask for money, you don't have children in the house who are crying from hunger. But after all this, my mother liked to tell us stories, and one of the stories was that there was a country that was called the United States of America, where all the people were rich, where all the people were happy. My mother told us, I looked at it with her own eyes, that even the field workers were going to work and they brought their vegetables and meat and everyone sat them down to eat, and I told them, Mom, really few in that country eat meat every day? And my mother said to me, I saw it with my own eyes, that there in the United States they eat meat every day. Oh, geez. Well, yeah. And especially a little sister named Lucha. She was like, I want to go where they eat meat all the time, only I ate like a cow. My little sister to date does it only eventually. I said, well, 5 years passed at the age of 16. I said, I have to do something because I am the head of the family here. It was very sad when I had to leave the house without permission. But I said, I'm going to America, where all the people eat meat, and eventually I'm going to take all my little brothers and sisters, my mother and my mother. I arrived at the border and asked them for passage, sir, let me pass to go to work, and you know what happened outside. But an angel came. That same day he says, do you want to go to America? I'll take you. We jump the line there, and then we run almost to San Diego, where I got on the train. A freight train to San Diego says in 2 hours it is in Los Angeles. But it didn't happen like that because Migra paid for the train a few miles north of San Diego. And they pulled me from the train. I was still running when they pulled me off my shoe. And I fell face to face among the bushes and stones and everything. As I said, bleeding a lot. They put handcuffs on my back. They took off my shoes. He says, don't move. And eventually the gentleman from the Border Patrol came. He says, you're hurt. I have to take you to a hospital to heal you. He took me to a hospital, and I said, well, I have to go home again because the situation is really getting violent there. But God sent me another angel, a nurse, who said, let me see what I can do for you. He went and collected 17.50 cents in his little hat. He gave them to me, and I said, well, this is a sign that I have to stay here. I ate for a couple of days, and there I come again and again. I did this one in Oceanside, where they told me before the train stops, climb a tree, and when the train starts, you go again. That's what I did, but the bad thing is that about 20 others followed me up the tree. The Border Patrol arrived, and the tree went to him, and there we go down, huh? Eventually, after many times I have deported them, I arrived here on Beach Boulevard in Buena Parte, where I got my first job looking for Betabel, Le Polo, and other things. Sir, how much will you pay me? I'm going to pay you what I pay everybody. I'm going to pay you 60 cents an hour. Wow, 60 cents an hour, a fortune. I stayed there to work, and I was still there, but the migration arrived in a few days, and there I go out again. I only started working little by little, and I took a trip to Mexico without thinking about it from time to time. Total, that when he was about 19 years old, he had already been deported at least 15 times. Did they come for the Meyer Patrol the last time they arrested me? I remember that I was in front of this one. An old man from the Immigration Service said, "Sir, what's your name?" And I tell him, well, my name is Pancho Villa in Cuelito. No, sir, you say your name is not Pancho Villa. And he says, or K, how about Ricardo Montalban? No. Well, he's better. Or K, Ricardo Montalban has a criminal record here that I don't know. And he says, but you know what? He says, you think I'm stupid, don't you? He says, you have already given me the names of all the heroes of independence and all the heroes of the revolution, he says. Only this time we're sending you to Terminal Allen Federal Prison, and you're not leaving until you promise never to return to the United States. There I go to St. Peter's Prison, not far from here. I got out of the truck and I looked around and I said, I like 3 meals a day, a great view of the Pacific Ocean, and they said, if you come back again, you're going to stay here for a year. And I was like, I hope so. But eventually the Lord says, I said, I have to do something. I promised my family that I was going to bring them here, get me out of here one way or another. Only that I signed some papers and they kicked me out to Tijuana. And there I come again eventually. Shortly after that, I married a citizen of the United States, the mother of my children. And after how many months did I leave for Tijuana? To get my green card, I felt so good that I went to the consulate and the U.S. consulate. I walked through the line, I showed them my green card, and he says, come in. I said, gee, how easy I got myself into. I went online again to see if it was true and pass him on. I eventually graduated from working in the field to driving a garbage truck, and for 12 years I drove a garbage truck. Eventually something like I said, well, I'm driving a garbage truck. On the one hand, I met a skinny gringo preaching upstairs where they sell hot dogs here at Orange Driving when it was Origin Driving, and that skinny preacher jumped up and down and said everything can be entrusted to God and he can do everything. God is almighty and he can make changes in your life. Anything is possible. He thinks you're possible. And you can do it. I said, oh gee, this man preaches what I have heard, that one has to be poor and humble to go to heaven with everything and shoes. And this man says he can achieve glory, even this one thing. Well, this doing something here with his life eventually, this after I heard the Lord that I went to a school, Allen to Hain High School, to learn English at night. He was 25 years old. I left school, I was 11 years old, and at 25 I returned again to learn English. You know how it goes. You are here 1 semester, 2 semesters, 3 semesters, 4 semesters, and there I go like a child with a new toy. I spoke to my boss. I told him, Mr. J. Cakes, you are to speak in Spanish to any more. I tell him, I can speak English like a gringo this. Mr. J.K. Jose says, you have a long way to go. But something is something, he says. Now I want you to go get a high school diploma. Yeah, do it for me, do it for you, for your family. And I'm going back to school to get a high school diploma. And when I was 30, I didn't want 1 GD and 1 equivalent. I said, I want a diploma because I want them to put me on the stage. I want them to put on my cap. And I want them to put on my cape. And I want to tell my children. His father graduated from high school. I was 30 years old when I got my high school diploma. I showed it to my boss, and he said, my boss says it's not on your fat. Kalish, I'm telling you, can't keep it. 1, happy you, there I go to school, to Fullerton School. He says that's what he wants to do with your life, and he says, I don't know, go and look for the brochures. And I looked for the brochures, and I looked at what it said, Administration of Justice, how to be a police officer. I, being a police officer, I grabbed the brochure and kicked it. Ha ha ha. I tell you, what a laugh, I being a police officer, but I said, and why not? If that skinny gringo who preaches there at the top of the hot dog are saying that one can be everyone and I'm going to be a police officer, I brought it to the counselor and told him, I want to be a police officer, and he tells him, no guy. Jose, I tell him, tell me one reason why I can't be a police officer, and you say I'm going to give you 10 reasons. You are very fat, you are very ugly. There is this one, you don't speak English anymore. It's atrocious, he said. You don't have what it takes to be a cop. Finally, I got angry with him, and the last one he signed me, you say your time, and there I come to study administration and justice classes. I spent 3 years going to school 4 nights a week until I felt brave enough to start stopping taking the tests. And that's because 33 years old was the age limit to be a police officer. I started taking the police test to take the first exam. written exam. The second was the physical agility exam. Or something happened to me, something funny. A colleague tells me that he is right next to me taking the test. You know that Jose is very big for me. He says, it seems to me that you are going to have trouble running a mile in a certain period of time, but I am going to help you. How are you going to help me? Are you going to carry me? No, you start running. I'll help you. I started running him, and then he starts screaming, here comes the migra, Jose. I passed all the tests and everything already. The last test they told me, can you speak of Fanny? Why do you talk so funny? I'm telling you, I didn't know I was talking about joking. How long did it take you to get your US citizenship? I'm telling you, I'm not a US citizen. How did you get here? Or I parked my garbage truck outside. No. How did you get to this stage of the tests? I tell you, no one told me that I had to be a citizen. He says he can't be a police officer or be a citizen. Eventually, I went to take another class, how to be a citizen in 20 easy elections. I knew the name of Abraham Lincoln's dog and the name of George Washington's mother-in-law. The day arrived at 10 a.m. for the first time. I put my hand on my chest and I said, I play allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Everything repay for registers, and you know what happened? I started to cry. And do you know why she cried with happiness? Because I said, I'm already a gringo. I said, neither I nor my children nor my children's children are going to have to walk the hardships, the hunger, the cold that I went through. Everything will continue well from here forward. The generations of the neighborhoods that come, that happened at 10 Lai in the morning to 3 Bulun in the afternoon. I returned to the city and left that same day with a charolita and an identification more or less like this, which said that I was a police officer. I don't think there are many people who can say that, Eventually I was sent to the LA Chair Police Academy. It was a residential academy where, well, it was really ugly, and I was the worst student that ever went to the academy. They were pure Marines, fresh from Vietnam. I didn't know anything about military discipline. I didn't know anything about anything. And eventually I made so many mistakes that I was voted the stupidest specimen the academy had ever set foot in. That those were their words, And well, but how do they want to know what happened? I graduated, and other Marines who had fought in Vietnam couldn't graduate because the situation was so ugly. But I remembered my grandfather Salvador, who said to me, son, it is better to be insulted than to be ignored. And every time they started to insult me, something I would say, Grandpa, help me, and he helped me. Eventually I went back to work alone, but then the times were different. There was no communication between the police and the citizens. And all of a sudden I would get off the patrol and start hugging the children and telling her, compadre, how are you, ma'am? Pleasure to look at her. And everything would say, hey, how strange you work. And I say, well, I get in touch and I get in touch and I get in touch. And the last one, because this one could simply work alone and no one bothered me. There were some terrible wars between two gangs from almost the same neighborhood, and the only agreement I had between the two gangs, we're not going to hurt Jose. And every time they rained bullets and petrol Molotov cans and all that, just a scream that was heard, don't hurt Jose, and don't hurt Jose, and you never hurt me. I eventually moved to Santa Ana here, and they eventually opened the Hispanic Affairs offices. They made me the director of the Office of Hispanic Affairs. I was not the police chief of Santa Ana, as they say in the bulletin you received, or you, but it says that I am the police chief of Santa Ana. But as they say so much, the Indian lives in the town until they make him mayor, right? But look how great it was at the Los Angeles Chef Academy. They threw me the stupidest copy that had ever gone through the academy, And about 9 years later, I came back, and you know how I came back, as one of the top 10 officers in the United States, selected by the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And they told me there, we knew that when Jose Vargas was here at the academy, that it was going to be something big, and I told him, liars. After that, I have had a very special way of working, communication, love of others, love of children, love of everyone. I could simply communicate wherever I wanted, and I did incredible works, this at an international level, a national level. I was on Christina's program, Don Francisco's program, in many programs internationally, and all my gift was that I can communicate with the Hispanic people. No, not putting them down or anything, just from one undocumented to another. Let's talk, or key that has opened the door for me all the time, because I understand my people. I think in all 31 years I was a cop. In them, my biggest award was that he came here for Santa Ana, the Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, and gave me a medal, the UTL Award, because this one for helping Mexicans outside Mexico. Here in the United States is the Bishop Jaime Soto. Grabbed the other medal. Okay, you grab it too. I'm not envious. But look at the best of everything that happened. What happened to my family? I have an amazing family. 3 of my kids are police officers. A daughter-in-law is a police officer. I have a sister who is a sergeant with the Riverside Chef. I have 2 pastors. I have one who is the head of a company. They all turned out very well for me, thank God. And if only I had stayed in the drug-ridden, gang-ridden neighborhood there. If it hadn't been for God helping me get out of there, who knows what would have happened to my family. I definitely don't think they would have turned out the way they did. Right now, I am very proud of my family, and when I'm not here, the Vargas family will continue with their work, working in the police and continuing wanting to communicate. As I tell you, I only thank God for all the blessings He has given me, but there are some things that worry me. First, let me tell you this morning. This morning I woke up on my little ranch, with the singing of the birds and the cochlear of my chickens. I have chickens, some of them illegal. When I woke up, I did not hear the screams of the population rebelling against an unjust regime, as in many countries. What is happening in many countries is that people, they're just taking up arms because they don't know what to do anymore. I did not hear the firing of firearms or the noise of the tracks of war tanks crushing the civilian population, which is what has happened in many countries. I thought about my children, my 20 grandchildren and my grandson. I have a great-grandson who is a little Cherokee boy named Lechuchita. They will never go hungry and enjoy security in this country. This country is the closest thing to glory, But I'm very concerned about watching how some of our people live. They have arrived here. I have found their daily bread, and yet they accept to live in economic, spiritual, and intellectual poverty, surviving only the most day by day. It gives us pride to say that we will soon be the largest ethnic group in California. But for now, we are #1 in prisons, #1 in school dropout, #1 in unwanted pregnancies, and we are the least insured. We must break free from the notion that poverty and humility are prerequisites for heaven. Instead, we should seize the opportunities our country offers, a land known as the land of milk and honey. I encourage everyone to dream big, even wildly, as Pastor Zuller suggests and many others have verified. With God's help, everything is possible. Just tell Him what you propose and ask Him for His help and the power to raise Lazaro and make a respectable policeman from an undocumented person who will help. But you have to have faith in Him. I know why I have been able to succeed in this life, because the Lord put me here. As long as I help him do his task here on earth, he will take care of my family and me, and take care of everything else, because I have complete trust in him. And until he gives me life, I will continue loving the children, fighting the afflicted, giving advice to the confused, until the great commander says, it is time to leave my last shift, and that I must participate in the eternal rest. Someday, we'll all reach glory, and you know what? In La Gloria, Saint Peter will not be wearing a green uniform, and the great commander will only ask us if we have accepted him and followed his commandments to enjoy his eternal amnesty. Until that day it will come to all of us, and until that day comes that my great commander protects all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Truly, thank you.
Ultimately, it was revealed when I mentioned the invitation in the living room. You responded there saying, I will attend. Is that okay?
Can you take a seat? This really the most applauded guest that our ministry has ever come here, right? The most applauded guest you have. Probably in a couple of months, I'm going to invite you again, and you invite your relatives, your friends, your enemies to come and hear you again. We're going to do this because there are many who can't be here. Today, we are going to perhaps invite Jose again to come share his story, and that he spoke for us. Hey, Jose talked to us. It's a little piece of his life. There's just so much more to share. Though I visit here 10 times, each instance brings a unique and intriguing story. Please share with us, amen, the topic.